How's it going, everyone? I'm Keegs, and I am here once again with Ben to talk Season 2 Ahsoka theories. This will be our 7th and final theory video, unless of course we think of something a few months from now and want to make a video on it. Alright, so I think the last thing we have here is Anakin's role in Season 2 of Ahsoka. So why don't you talk a little bit about this?
So I think this could be a straight up coin toss. Go either way. It could not be in it at all or just in it very briefly. But I think given what we know about Mortis, given what we know about the father, given we know about the nature of who Anakin is, I don't think he necessarily operates by the exact same rules that other Force Ghosts do.
Interesting. You think he's got himself a little bit more together?
Yeah, and he's also in different robes. Now again, that could be literally nothing. It could have been that, you know, the explanation for his light robes in episode 6 was just that they put Hayden Christensen's head on Shaw's body and there wasn't like thought given to why he was wearing those robes. But it could also be that he's choosing it. It could be like a million things basically. But so the reason I think that is, one, the father wanted Anakin to replace him in the Mortis arc.
True.
And we know that whatever Baylan is looking for is directly related to that.
Yep.
A big theory that people sort of based on not a lot of like any actual evidence, but sort of based on the speculation we'll get into, is that, you know, maybe he is going to replace the father, and that will also lead into Ahsoka learning more about Morai and the nature of the daughter and the nature of the ones and who they are, maybe even the wills and stuff like that. But I think that he'll guide Ahsoka, he'll help her. I think in a more similar way to the way Obi-Wan guided Luke. I think people have this idea that Force Ghosts are like really cryptic, and I don't think that's true.
I just think Obi-Wan's cryptic.
No, not at all. So, so here's the thing: like in the original trilogy, Force Ghosts just speak like the characters that they are.
Yeah.
The way that Force Ghosts have been described in this from certain point of view is that they kind of pull themselves out of the cosmic force and then manifest and then put on their like reassume the person that they were. That's not like canonical or anything. That's just I think maybe an extrapolation based on some things George Lucas has said, but it does seem like they are them in a very literal sense. Maybe only a mask in the way that like any identity is a mask, quote unquote.
Interesting.
And you know.
Yeah, I mean.
So I do think that he will be involved at least as guide, but I also think because of the connection to the father that he might play a much bigger role than we're thinking.
Could be. I mean, the father obviously wanted him, but also the father's dead. So.
Yeah, and here's the other thing about that too. So that's exactly why he might need to refill that role. Now, you know, the son and the daughter are quote unquote dead as far as we know, but a couple things about that. The father was killed normally, I believe. However, but the daughter kind of had like her essence transferred into Ahsoka, at least partially. So she at least lives on through Ahsoka in some capacity. And I think that'll play into why Morai is following her.
Yep.
I think Morai might just straight up be an avatar for the daughter, and that might actually be the daughter.
I thought that, but I mean, the daughter, Morai is like the companion of the daughter. It was there when the daughter was there too. So
that's true.
Maybe some energy has flown into Morai. And I know they're very force sensitive, but we know for a fact that her remaining force energy went into Ahsoka.
Yeah, so I think that they're gearing up to set up Ahsoka as the daughter role, and I think Anakin would be obviously a very good choice for that.
Yeah.
I don't know if Baylan's going to be the son or anything like that, but if the cosmic force was thrown out of balance, and that's sort of, if we assume that everything the ones are saying is true, sort of helped the Empire come to be, and then it got thrown back in balance again, I do think that Anakin is going to play a role in whatever Baylan's doing.
All right, hold on. I got it, Ben. So what if Anakin, because he's cosmic force now, right? He can do whatever the fuck he wants. So what if he splits himself between his light and dark sides, and he is both the daughter and the son?
Okay, that actually sounds fire. or the other half of him is the balance, so he becomes the father, and then he splits his darkness off.
All I'm saying is I think I should write Filoni.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be pretty sick.
Give him some ideas here.
What I was getting at, though, with the nature of the Force Ghosts is that they're not cryptic. I think Anakin would be directly involved. We know that from a certain point of view, and even the perspective of Force Ghosts when we see them in books, like they think and have feelings about stuff and look for the right things to say. So it's not like they just know everything. I know in one of the point of view books says that Obi-Wan could like see into the future. I think pretty like there is a concept of destiny in Star Wars, but it's sort of like
prophecies are always
what you
a little,
make it right, and there isn't one singular future that is destined to happen, I guess is what I'm getting at. So I don't think that the Force Ghost can see the future in a way that I think some people may have extrapolated from that.
Yeah, I don't think so. They might be able to see possible outcomes or like certain ways that the cosmic force might be headed in directions and things, and they might extrapolate meanings from that as well. But I definitely don't think that there's like a destiny.
No, definitely not. And so I do think because of that, Anakin would have as much of himself as we would think, and he'd be directly involved in that way. And we also know that from the book. I mean, this is like 9-ish years after Return of the Jedi. He immediately wanted to go back and help. He wanted to will himself back alive to fix everything he's done. He had to sort of calm himself and let go and allow the generation to fix it. So I don't think he's going to like force things to happen, but I think he will help Ahsoka.
We know if he could know the future and where everything turned out, he might have just straight up willed himself back to do it himself.
Exactly. And I also think that
if he knew it was going to fail anyway after he died.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that it's going to be important for that, especially this connection to those things, and also the fact that he was birthed of the Force. I feel like that gives him special privileges and like
got a hall pass to be a Force Ghost whenever he wants now.
Exactly.
So I think he's critical role. I think is probably what he will have, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be in a lot of the series, you know. Hayden Christensen.
No, I don't think so either.
I was going to say, I don't think he's going to be in a lot of the episodes. I think he might have an important role to play. Maybe we see Force Ghost Anakin again at some point. I think it's likely because some people will say it's fan service, and they're not wrong, but also he is very important to the story. So I think it makes sense to have him. And it's not just like, oh yeah, just because we all wanted to see Anakin again. But really, I mean, he is a Force Ghost. He's there. He's trying to direct Ahsoka and Sabine through proxy of Ahsoka as well. So I think that it makes a lot of sense for him to come back. I don't think he's going to be I don't think he's going to have like a whole episode like he did in season 1.
No, I think he'll like pop up like a few times, but I think he'll be a reoccurring side character in the sense of like the, you know, billing of a show. Like he won't be like a main cast or first billing or whatever. Like, I think Ahsoka and Sabine will be like the main and Shin and Baylan. However, I do think that he'll play critical role in helping and maybe even assuming some of what the ones that originally wanted for him.
Yeah, I really hope it's not just him as a Force Ghost, just kind of like staring at Ahsoka through the whole season.
Yeah, I want them to talk.
Say something, my friend.
Yeah, look, like I think that what we got was great, and I loved it, and I love the way that he taught the lesson because it's sort of in line with how therapists teach lessons, is that they lead you to the conclusion, they don't tell you, because you need to feel like you figured it out.
Yeah.
Even if you know you're being led, you still want to come to that conclusion on your own. But that being said, I think that he still owes her an apology and they should have a conversation.
I need to hear it. Say you're sorry, Anakin. Do it already.
I don't care if that's more for us than it is for Ahsoka, but I want to hear it. I think she deserves it, and it'd be good for him too, I think.
Yeah, they can air some stuff out, you know, catch up on each other's life after the Order.
Yeah, and it's weird because the only instance I think we really have of Ghost being like weirdly cryptic is in the Shadows of the Sith novel, where Anakin's like, "The Force flows through me, my son, like a river, and it flows through you," and like response to a question that Luke is asking him, and I'm like. I just don't see Anakin talking like that. Maybe the context was that, you know, he was sort of like dissipating and he was having a hard time. So maybe... I
think they said it in the book. He's like, hey, I'm 100% confident that he said, like, I used too much energy pulling you back. I don't have much time, but
yeah, that could even feed into what he can say. If he's kind of falling back into the Force, it could be, it kind of gets more and more generic and less him.
Yeah.
So
I think that would actually make a lot of sense.
So I do think so, and I also think he's too important to Ahsoka, and Ahsoka's too important to him, and they share such an important relationship that's going to continue to inform Sabine and Ahsoka. Baylan seems to know him, and we don't really have a lot of context for how Baylan has any of this information. It's possible that he just tapped into Ahsoka's mind when they ran into each other, and he learned then.
He's been on this path for a lot longer than he.
No, he has, but you know, when he says, you know, if you knew what he would become, and blah 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 blah. And he could have like had that knowledge already.
Oh, you just mean specifically about Anakin turning to the dark side.
Yeah, because there's really no way he could have just known that we know of.
Yeah.
Unless there's additional context, unless he was just probing her mind. That's just something he's really good at, like he did with Sabine. So.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that it's possible I don't know. I think there's a good chance that he knew Anakin was Vader for some way, shape, or form. I mean, it's not impossible to figure out. There were hardly any Jedi left at that point, so...
Sure, but there were 10,000 Jedi. Probably a lot that sort of match Vader's frame. Baylan even looks closer to Vader, like, stature-wise than Anakin does.
No, I mean, you're definitely right. But, I mean, there's a lot of time.
I see what you're saying.
There's a lot of time in there for him to have figured it out in some other way, shape, or form, you know? I feel like there's a lot of explanations for someone. Especially if they were familiar with, like he had met Anakin before, which I'm pretty sure he said, right? Didn't he say that?
Yeah. During the Jedi Order.
Yeah, I think he said he met him at one point. So, like, how many surviving Jedi had actually met Anakin before and kind of knew him?
That's very true.
Not many. I mean, the only two that did that we know of, right, are Obi-Wan and Yoda, and they both knew.
Also true. I mean, some survived and then Vader killed them, but not a lot really knew him.
They might have found out it was Anakin right before they got their head chopped off, so...
Yeah, exactly.
Dead men don't talk. I mean, except Anakin.
The last big thing I'll say as my sort of circumstantial evidence that Anakin will be heavily involved is also that if we work under the assumption that Dave is going to be following up on some of George's sequel treatments in some capacity, at least the really important Force stuff, that I could see Anakin being very important and involved in that.
Yeah.
So
yeah. No, I think
that's one of my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I like that theory as well. So I'm definitely hoping to see him again, and I think you're right. I think he'll play a critical role. He's always going to play a critical role in Ahsoka's life, so I wouldn't be surprised to see it again in the next season. But I think that pretty much wraps up all the theories we had. Did you have anything else you wanted to tack on there?
That is it. I think I've waffled on long enough.
Very good. Well, we'd like to hear you guys' thoughts out there. What do you think is happening in season 2 of Ahsoka, or even the greater Star Wars galaxy, maybe the movie that's coming up? Where do you think everything's going and where these characters are headed? I'm Keegs, and I will catch you all next time for some more Star Wars content.